Right on, let's spend some time and talk about units of measurement. Before we do that, let's talk about the prefixes first. Makes it much easier for us to talk about the rest of it. Let's start from the big ones and we'll end with the smaller ones. First thing, mega. 1 mega something means 1 million units of something. Common usages you can find on the street was megapixel, megaton, megabyte. Next thing, kilo. That's easier to understand. 1,000 units. Kilometer, kilogram. These are all things that starts with kilo. And the next thing is deca. That means 10 of something. I can't really think of anything aside from decade, which is 10 years. I'm pretty sure people use it elsewhere. It's just they're not used very often. The next thing is deci. Deci means 1/10 of something, like a decibel. Next thing is centi. Centi is 1/100th of something. Centimeter. That's pretty much it. Milli. Milli is 1,000th of something. Millimeter. Milligram. I'm sure you've heard of those things before. Now the next thing is micro. Of course, aside from microwave and Microsoft, we have micrometer, microgram, which means 1/1,000,000th of a unit. There you go. Right, let's talk about distance. Let's start from the metric system. Well, the base unit in the metric system for distance is a meter. Of course, you can put all kinds of prefixes in front of meter to make it bigger or smaller. I'm going to list a couple common ones here for you. Number 1, kilometer. Wait a second. I just said kilometer because here in North America we call it kilometer. You go to Britain, you're going to have to call it kilometer. That's what they call it. Anyways, this represents 1,000 meters, which is a pretty long distance. That's why this is normally used to measure distance between two cities. You can say from this town to the other town, the distance is 20 kilometers. Makes it much easier to say. The next common one is a centimeter. A centimeter is, of course, 1/100th of a meter. This is normally used to measure things that's much smaller. Say my height. I am 190 centimeters tall. You can say that. Can you measure my height in kilometers? Yes, you can. That number would be 0.0019 kilometer. That kind of sounds silly, so don't worry about that. The next thing that you're going to hear very often is going to be millimeter. Millimeter is 1,000th of a meter, which is very, very tiny. That's why it's normally used to measure something really small. You can say, I just caught a fly. How big is it? It's well, it's about 4 millimeters long. Something like that. Right, let's spend some time and talk about the imperial system. First thing you need to know, all of those prefixes that we've just spent a lot of time talking about, they don't matter anymore. Because you can't say in the imperial system, you can't say a microfoot. Actually, you can. If you say a microfoot, that just means you have very small feet. That's it. Remember, they don't matter anymore. The next thing is, in the imperial system, there's not a base unit like in the metric system, the meter. We don't have that stuff anymore. We have all kinds of different measurements for longer distance or shorter distance. That is kind of confusing, but you know what? With a little bit of time, you will be able to get used to this. Let's give that a shot. Let's start from the biggest measurements again. Biggest one is mile. A mile is approximately 1.6 kilometers long, which means people would also use mile to measure distance between cities. Sometimes people say the distance between these two cities is 20 miles. There you go. The next thing we want to talk about is yard. Well, a yard is approximately 90